Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
We are live, local, social on the Splash Live. I'm on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft, joined as always by Kevin McIntosh. Kevin, a great start to our week on Monday, a beautiful day in the greater West Bloomfield area, and a beautiful week already well underway.
What's going on, Tyler? Another day, another opportunity. Happy to be here. Per usual, it's a lot going on, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, it may be spring break in the greater West Bloomfield area, but still plenty of action going on, a lot to learn about our local community. So let's dive right in. And of course, the biggest story in town are those champions that earned their spring break this week. The West Bloomfield girls varsity basketball team once again wearing the crown in Division I for girls basketball in the state of Michigan. Had a great season, an historic season with one loss, none of which were in the state of Michigan. They lost to a team out of Ohio about midway through the season and then won out the rest of the way. 60-30 victory on Saturday to win the state championship over Grand Blanc. Kevin, and a great performance from this team.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Tyler. I didn't even realize that until you just mentioned it. They hadn't lost to a Michigan team. That one loss was to an out-of-state team. That's a great point right there. With that being said, I just feel like alone, that was probably one of the greatest teams, senior teams in Michigan girls high school basketball ever. That I've at least seen. So, although it was a team full of seniors, we know it came to an end. That era, I guess we could say, I had a chance to talk to Coach Darren McAllister to get him to share his thoughts on what it was like actually ending another season with this team.
Well, I want to thank you guys. I want to miss you guys covering us. I want to say we appreciate that first and foremost. From the beginning of the season, we knew that we left some hardware here in East Lansing. And so that was our mindset. We had to come back and get that. So we were working each and every day during the preseason to make sure that we were prepared for this moment. And at the same time, we were just putting our goals together, putting together the teams that we need to play that's going to prepare us for this moment. And I give our coaching staff an A+ in developing our players, putting together a schedule, coming up with an assignment and executing, because at the end of the day, brick by brick made us a foundation to stand up there and hold that trophy.
There it is. And you're also dealing with a group of seniors now, well-trained. You developed them into, the leaders that they are now. Let's talk about your mindset, your mentality now that you got the job done with them, but now you have to start over with a whole new group. They're moving on.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rest. It's been a long season. My birthday is Tuesday. My players blessed me with a championship that I can go down to Miami and I can lay on the beach and just reminisce about this season, rest. But it's a short time, because we come back, we got to get back in the lab and develop some more players so we can come back here again, because people think that we're going to fall off, but we're not falling off. Our name is on the leash. You'll see us here next year.
Right. Absolutely. So that speaks volumes, considering the fact this is your second championship in 3 years. You're familiar here, like you said. You've been here so often. It feels like, at least that speaks high to your system. Just talk about your system and what makes it so great.
Well, first of all, it starts with the belief. Our players believe in us, we believe in them, and they buy in. That's what the main thing is, just buying in and coming in and putting in that work, understanding your assignment, getting out there and executing. And listen, the proof is in the pudding. 3 years, 2 state championships, runner-up. Come on, man. What else can be said?
Absolutely, and after a big win yesterday, a game-time shot to take you into overtime, you had plenty of moments to celebrate and to put on the buffs and to boss up, but you waited until this moment. Talk about holding back your celebrations until that big moment and the importance of doing that.
The job wasn't finished. The job wasn't finished. It wasn't finished yesterday. If you take a look at the video when she hit that shot, you didn't see me jumping around and screaming, because the reality is I've seen that before from Summer, India, Kendall, Destiny. I've seen that. And those kids have a will to win and a desire to not let anybody else beat them. No team can say that, and no team in the state of Michigan can say they beat us this year. Take a look at the record. It's there. I'm not lying to you. It's there. So the reality was I wasn't excited. I was just kind of calmed down and saying, hey, job's not finished. Let's finish off these Rams. We big game hunting. Let's finish off these Rams. We got some Bobcats waiting on us. And we got that done today.
And also speaking to and for the West Bloomfield community, talk about your now that it's done, talk about your feelings to and for the West Bloomfield community.
Man, I got so much love for the West Bloomfield community, the administration, the staff there, the teachers, the players, the students. It's just so much love because we have more support than you can imagine. And it's just a great feeling when you walk in the store and people recognize it and know you and it's, hey, Coach Mack. And I mean, it's just a great feeling. We saw you over there. Good luck. And just looking in the stands and seeing the teachers there, the football players there, the basketball players there, the staff. It's just a beautiful feeling. But the thing that really got me was, that was our thing when we said, camouflage, big game hunting. But when you look up in the stands, everybody's wearing it. Man, it was a beautiful thing, especially going against all that orange. And that red didn't have a chance today with it.
Correct. Well said. Darren McAllister, head coach for the girls of the West Bloomfield Lakers High School varsity basketball team, letting you know big game hunting, it has officially begun. We actually got the job done.
That they did, Kevin, and they got the job done, winning the state title game 60-30, an emphatic finish after a really exciting game on Friday. And hey, what better birthday present for Coach McAllister? Happy birthday, D-Mac. It is his birthday today on this Tuesday, and you know what? Best birthday gift is bringing home the hardware if you're a head coach.
Yeah, happy birthday, Coach Mack. I'm a Mac myself, McIntosh. So happy birthday, Coach Mack. Yeah, like you said, a great way to end the season, going straight into your birthday. 22 years old, never looked so good, Coach.
Absolutely. And, he'll be celebrating plenty more of that when he gets back. There's going to be a lot more to come from this, hopefully. We'll keep any updates on our show here about any further celebrations of this girls basketball team. Historic finish to their season. 2 championships in 3 years. And, hey, a couple minutes go their way a year ago, that could possibly be a three-peat. So we have extensive coverage of the girls basketball championship campaign from last weekend on our website on civiccentertv.com. Go to our on-demand page, and you can even find the category WBHS Lakers Sports. All of our interviews, we talked to many of the players, including seniors from this team that played key roles all throughout their career. Destiny Washington, Kendall Hendricks, Summer and India Davis, and so many more, plus full stories about both the regional final, the semifinal, and the state finals from Friday and Saturday. CivicCenterTV.com, or go to our Facebook page at CivicCenterTV 15. And Kevin, a lot of these athletes begin their journey playing outside, playing with their peers, learning these games, or building their skills in exercise. And there's a location right here in the greater West Bloomfield area that takes the idea of you and I and other adults going to the gym and incorporates that for kids in the greater West Bloomfield area. Reporter Jake Schaff has the story.
Spring may be in bloom, but summer is just around the corner, and kids everywhere are getting themselves ready for some fun outside and staying active with their friends. Swag Gym in West Bloomfield offers fun and exciting weekly gym classes, keeping them fast on their feet and quicker and more agile than ever before. Coach Ralph Tompkins is the owner of Swag Gym, and he makes sure to keep all of his classes not only entertaining, but energizing for the kids as well.
We opened up in 2019, a little bit before the pandemic, and it's been some ups and downs, but it's been a great opportunity, a lot of growth since we first opened back in September of 19. So that's the age 6 to 12-year-old class. That's like our Ninja Warriors exercise class. So they get an opportunity to try a lot of different things. So we build obstacle courses. We do a little bit of strength training, and we do some conditioning, some exercise. So really an all skill levels type of class where they're able to grow, excel, and really learn the pace, learn rhythm, learn sharing, learn taking turns, and learn how to navigate doing hard things. I know we do, me and my other coaches, Coach Katie, Coach Lorelai, and our other staff, we all teach the same way, same foundational structure. So all the kids feel very comfortable with us, and they understand like the parts of class that happen, gives kids an opportunity to flourish. They know what to expect, but they also can be in for a surprise or two for things that we have up store. So all the coaches are really the same in regards to the instruction.
What do you think of Coach Ralph?
He's very fun and he's very fair. He makes sure that everybody does about the same amount of work. He's very beginner friendly, and even if you can't do certain things at the start, some of the coaches will make it easier, so over time you can get better and better at it until you can get up to the better people.
How important is this class to kids of that age?
Super vital, and the great thing about us is we offer classes year-round. So these kids really get the opportunity to not only go when it's cold, but go when it's warm. And these type of classes and exercises, they really help with structure. They help with foundational exercise. They help with learning how to follow directions. So when they go into different paths, whether it's sports, dance, or different things like that, they have a foundational base of what to do, how to do it, listen to instruction, and then also have fun while they're doing their passion. So these classes are super vital. SWAG is a facility where not only we do classes, Ninja Warrior, gymnastics, definitely sports and workout class, but we're actually expanding into like doing music classes as well. We've done yoga in the past, so there's a lot of different teachers that we would like to collaborate with that have a lot of different special talents and specialties where they can utilize the actual facility, but then at the same time they get the chance, other people, all our members and other people get the chance to kind of use this as a community center where they can come in the SWAG, but there's also different exercises and different programs they can do. We like to partner with different people who have different talents for kids so they can get a great exposure of all different types of events and exercises here at the gym.
So much fun to be had here at Swag Gym, and a great opportunity for kids everywhere to stay in shape and to have some fun along the way. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
That's the kind of stuff you love to see if you're a parent in the greater West Bloomfield area. Want to get your kids ready for the summer and even beyond that, have them expel some of that energy in a productive way and support a local business in the process. Thank you for that story, Jake. More information, and you can always find all of our stories about local businesses and other initiatives in our community on CivicCenterTV.com. It's the time of the year where we're going to be getting back outside, improving our yards, maybe doing some spring cleaning in and outside of our homes, and often that involves a lot of water. We want to conserve this vital resource that we have a plentiful amount of here in Oakland County and around the state of Michigan, but there are certain steps we can take that both help us not only with our water resources, but with our water bill as well. Joining us now is the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, Jim Nash. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on as we are into the season where a lot of people are going to be using a lot more water regularly for activities, for cleaning, for so many other regular activities around their home as well. And so that always comes back to the topic of conservation. And the first place we often look, and the place that's been looked at a lot lately as we've now headed out of Fix a Leak Week, are leaks in our home where water can not only cause damage, but can also be kind of harmful as well.
Oh, they certainly can. I mean, if it's a bad leak in your home, it can eventually bother your structure of your house if you're not careful. So, I mean, it can raise your bill. We've seen cases where somebody had a significant leak under their house, didn't know it, and they got a $2,000 bill. So these kind of things do happen. For most people, leaks tend to be smaller things that just raise your water bill more than it should be. And for toilets, things like that, you might not even know it's happening at all. So this is making people aware of it is really important. The EPA has a significant amount of resources on their website around this. My office does too. My office website is oakgov.com/water. If you go up there and search the site, you can find a bunch of things around that. Sometimes we have things on the front page. Again, an easy way to find out if your toilet is having issues is put a couple of drops of food coloring in the tank above the toilet. If you come back 10 minutes later and there's some discoloration in the tank, in the pot of the toilet, that means that you've got a leak. And so it's usually a flapper or something inside the tank that causes that. You can go down to the hardware store and get a part and fix it yourself. It's really pretty easy. Or call a plumber. That's, the biggest, most common issue we have is toilets. But again, it's in the leaking of the system itself, when you're outside, the mains in the street, when there's a leak in that, trust me, it develops into a sinkhole pretty rapidly because it's under pressure and it just eats out the dirt around it. So if you have a wet spot in your yard coming from the street, it could be a potential leak. And in your house, those are the ones that really are the ones that people can be aware of.
Yeah, and this all comes back to conservation, and within conservation being such a broad terminology, prevention of waste of that water. Because, as you said, those leaks can build over time, and look, it may be one drip at a time, but you think about a drip every few seconds. That's a lot of water throughout one day, throughout 1 week, throughout 1 month, and so on and so forth. So in terms of waste, when you do have these leaks or you do have these other issues where water is seeping out in or outside of your home, just how much water can we end up wasting from something that seems so minor?
Oh, sure. I was reading a thing that's from the EPA actually that said that 5 drops a minute ends up being 500 gallons a month, which is way more than people would think. So yeah, that is an issue. One of the things that most systems use now are the water meters have a little piece on them that shows a water faucet. So if you shine a flashlight on the top of your meter, if you see little drops coming from that means that the water is running 24 hours a day, which means you have a leak. So there is a way you can find out right from your own meter if you have a house with a more modern water meter, to be able to tell yourself right away. And my office operates 22 communities, water and sewer services. So we know that we can collect that data from the homes of folks and show whether they're having a leak. And we're working on that as a means of actually on their bill, we can put a little notice that says, we detect you have a leak in your house. So this is something we're working on. Hopefully in the next year or so, we'll have that as a resource that we can use, and other communities can do that too. So there's ways of notifying and ways of finding out yourself if you have a leak in your home. And I would really encourage folks to do that.
More information on the Water Resources Commissioner's Office and their resources can be found on oakgov.com/water or on Facebook at Water Resource OC. Lots of helpful information, infographics, and more. And, of course, tons of advice on how you can conserve water better in your home, especially now as we're in the spring season and people are going to be getting back outside. What we often also hear about this time of the year, Jim, is people doing their spring cleaning. Whether it is indoors or outdoors, it often involves not only our water, but also cleaning products and other materials, all of which can affect our waterways. What are some of the common problematic practices that may seem harmless when you're doing them, but could actually have a big impact on our water and our water systems?
Well, sure. There's several things that do that. When we're putting things into the drains, we just have to remember that all this goes down into a sewer system and ends up in the water at some point. Even medicines, things like that, you should not wash them down the toilet. So really, there's several ways of looking about how we use what we use. One of them is if anybody has a sprinkler system in their system, an irrigation system from their house water into their garden, they should be getting an inspection every 5 years to make sure that there's a backflow preventer. Backflow preventers mean that if there's a problem with the water pipe and it loses pressure, there's potential that it could pull water back out of the ground into the water system, which would mean bacteria, all the things that are in the earth. So that's something that we have to make sure that we have backflow preventers. So if there is an accident with the water mains, we won't be polluting the water. Generally speaking, if we have a water main problem, we fix it. We give a boil water notice. That means nobody should use their water unless they boil it before use. Then we have to test it to make sure that there's no bacteria in that water. and we have to have 48 hours worth of testing. So this is part of what we do to protect our water supplies is make sure that backflow preventers are on everything. Some of them have, water furnaces can have a backflow preventer on them, or even sump pumps under your house. Some of those have them. So we have to make sure that we're everything that potentially can contaminate the water is considered and can't backflow into it. Things such as most cleaners, and you had that picture just then. The EPA has a list of cleaners that are safe for water. I would really always look for that. Even things like fertilizers, if it has phosphorus or non-time released nitrogen, that has significant impacts. If you live near a lake or your water drains into a drain that goes to a lake, that's why we have large algae blooms in lakes that can cause a stop to swimming, and it's a danger to the fish. So those kind of things have an impact, and we'll have to be aware of those. And again, there's a lot of safety labels on fertilizers also that say whether they have phosphorus and time release nitrogen. So those are the kind of things that we protect against. And just people need to be aware that whatever they're putting into their sinks ends up in our systems.
Jim Nash is with us, Water Resources Commissioner from Oakland County, on today's edition of the Splash Live. More information, including some helpful info on how you can help protect our local waterways, can be found on oakgov.com/water, or visit their Facebook page at Water Resource OC for even more information. And that also comes back to our pets, and you mentioned the fertilizers for the spring season as we're building our yards, but there's so much other forms of waste that can ultimately get into our waterways and ultimately have a major impact. That's a great point that you made too, that we're protecting our lakes, especially here in the greater West Bloomfield area, where we're surrounded by so many major lakes and other water systems. Really good stuff to keep in mind. And Jim, affordability of our water is also something that's become more of an issue in recent years with economic issues and other distresses. We know here in Oakland County that there are a large sum of people that do have to live paycheck to paycheck or are struggling to pay their bills, including their water. But Michigan lawmakers are working on some things to help water affordability be a lot better at the local level, and that involves offices like yours and the county's.
Certainly, yeah. We've been working on this for several years now. When the pandemic hit, the state suspended shutoffs. So we couldn't shut anybody off. We worked with as many folks as we could, but a lot of folks allowed their bills to accumulate. So we had some real issues that we knew were going to develop as we came out of this. And all across the country, and I mean all across the state, because we're in Michigan, and the country significantly, there is issues because in Michigan, there's several things that are affecting what the price of water is going to be now and into the future. Just a few of them are really aging infrastructure. A lot of communities have significant water and sewer infrastructure that is very old and needs to be replaced. We also have significant issues with lead in pipes that we're going to have to be replacing. Now, that's a very hit and miss kind of issue. I live in Farmington Hills. We're not aware of any lead pipes in Farmington Hills. In Pontiac, which is just about the same size as Farmington Hills, they have about 8,000 of their 20,000 customers have lead pipes. So that's about 40% of the population. And just for Pontiac, we're looking at, unless we get outside help with grants, we've gotten some, of a 40% rate increase for the next 10 years to replace lead pipes by the new federal rule, which says we have to replace them all in 10 years. That's about $80 million over 10 years, $8 million a year. That's a 40% increase in their rates. That would be devastating to a lot of folks in that community. Already a little over a third have a really hard time affording their water, and with a 40% increase, that would be up into the 60%. Other communities around the state, around the county, are very affected by this, and we've recognized that we need some kind of larger program of affordability. We did a 2-year study with funding from the EPA, with funding from EGLE, the state environmental agency, that we did a countrywide study of all the attempts at affordability programs, and none of them have really worked because they weren't on a large enough scale. So what we've recognized is that we need to do this on a statewide scale. There's legislation in Lansing to do that. What this would do is create a fund like is done with the Michigan Michigan Energy Assistance Program, MEAP, that was done under the previous governor, Governor Snyder, in 2012. So it's been in existence a significant amount of time. It's really dug into the problem of energy shutoffs, and we've modeled this after that. So with water shutoffs, the way it's done for the energy program is every metered household pays $2 a month into a fund that is then helps local governments, local utilities subsidize the bills for the low-income folks. So we want to do this for water. It would be a $2 a month fee that everyone would pay into a fund, and then this would help commit to funding a subsidized subsidized water bill for low-income folks. And this would allow them to pay a bill because nobody wants to get their water free. They just can't afford it the way it's going and rising. So this would allow them to have a subsidized fee, and a lot of communities would tremendously benefit. Pontiac would be able to actually lower rates over time because they're spending so much to make up for folks who can't pay their bill. Every community has folks in it that can't pay their bill. Some communities have less, some more, but everybody has an issue, has communities, has folks with them that have an issue paying their bill. It's an immediate problem for health. If they lose their water, they have a real problem with disease, with sanitation, all those things. So that has an effect on families, but it also has an effect on the overall rates that people pay because they have to make up every year for the people that can't afford to pay those bills. So that's why bills go up more than they should every year, because there's some people that have to be made up for because they can't pay them. This is something that we've seen for a long time, and we recognize that we just can't keep going this way. And I think that this is a solution that really will work. It has worked with the energy sector, and I think it can work with us. We want to make sure we're shutting off as few people as we can. We don't want to shut people off. We want to make sure they get the water and sanitation services they need. Without it, there's a real risk of health in their own homes and in the places they go to work. If they're sick, they can carry illnesses to their works. And all these have a payback in the long run if we stop doing that. And I think that this is something that really has a chance that would change us. We'd be the first state to do it, and I think we'd be an example state countrywide as to how it can be done in a way that's fair, but also effective to keeping everybody having their water.
Yeah, and our local area has been on the forefront of that. Your office formed a coalition with over 50 members, collaborating with over 30 organizations to try to look into this and see how this could be done in a way that's affordable for people that are in need of more affordable water resources in our communities throughout the state, but also in a way that isn't going to then hike the rates for everybody else. Commissioner Nash, before we let you go, anything else that we should know from the Water Resources Commissioner's office at this time?
Well, our office is working on a lot of questions that we need to answer. You know, I talked about the old infrastructure and the lead in the service lines. The biggest thing that's affecting us in terms of long term is climate change. In our area, the Great Lakes Basin, climate change is mostly going to be very heavy storms that can travel fast. We've experienced that here, and it's just going to get more intense over time. So we're working on resiliency, building our systems so they can take these hard rains without damage more. And we're working on mitigation. My industry, water and sewer and stormwater, uses about 4% of all the energy in America to move and treat water. And we can instead create energy doing that. I'm working on a project that will take sewage solids and pull out the methane from them so that it's not going to the atmosphere and underground. And we'll be using that energy to run our facility instead of fossil fuels. And in the long run, we'll be able to create enough energy that we can start doing things like charging electric cars off of it and doing other things that we can start mitigating climate change through getting off fossil fuels. So I'm real proud of what we're doing in terms of like leading that way. We're one of the most advanced in the country right now. And we're looking for a grant to do something. We'd be the most advanced in the world for creating energy from sewage solids. And I think that's one of those things that in the long run, everybody that does sewage will end up doing, and will get off of fossil fuels for our industry and start creating energy for the greater society.
A lot of important work being done out of Oakland County. It requires a lot of partnership between our Water Resources Commissioner's office and our local communities. That definitely on display of late. Commissioner Nash, thank you so much for your time.
Again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you on oakgov.com/water for more updates from the Water Resources Commissioner's office. You can also follow along with them on Facebook, facebook.com/waterresourceOC. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Plenty more to get to. March is Reading Month. We're helping to support potentially some increased resources for kids in schools to improve their reading and their reading resources, plus information on how you can help your neighbors who may be facing food insecurity. All that and more coming up next on the Splash Live.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
It's that time of year, Lakers. Gather around to honor our community's volunteers at the 52nd Annual Michigan Week Awards. Watch as these local all-stars are honored for their leadership, dedication, and passion to their community. To register, go to michiganweek.org or catch the live broadcast May 10th at 7 a.m. on civiccentertv.com or on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. And now, back to the Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft, alongside Kevin McIntosh, bringing you the latest news and information from throughout our 4 communities each and every day. And March is Reading Month. It's an important time of the year for us to think about bringing those resources to our kids in the classroom and outside of the classroom to help to improve their literacy. And so there's so many different resources that are available throughout our community. We talked recently to the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, had a really interesting conversation with Justine Flores yesterday on the program about some spring break opportunities that are available. WBLIB.org is the place to go for all of those that involve reading, interactivity, some fun activities for the kids that engage them in learning, engage them in reading during their spring break, and a great resource over at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. You can find more of that information on facebook.com/westbloomlib. But there are also other people throughout our communities who are working to help improve literacy in our classrooms as well, including some of our local state leadership, Kevin.
Tyler, I had the privilege of actually doing some research and finding out about what our Michigan lawmakers introduced, which is the library in every school bill, and somebody who's very, very responsible for that and going to tell us a little bit more about that is Senator Rosemary Bayer from West Bloomfield. Can you tell us about this proposed legislation and why this issue is important to you?
I grew up with books. My grandmother was a librarian at Ferndale, and we used to go there, and she would actually keep the written on books for us. We would read everything, So it's hugely important to me personally. But that being said, what we know is that libraries in school, with librarians in school, have a huge impact on the success at school. And it's achievement, it's graduation, it's grades, it's all that. It's also equity, because reading is the number one factor in success at school. So if you can't read, you are going to have trouble from that point on, right? That's why that 3rd grade thing was so critical, right? Everybody knows that if you aren't reading by 3rd grade, we got to help. we got to help in a big way, right? So we have a lot of extra resources to make sure that anybody who is struggling at that point gets caught up right then. Because if you wait till 5th grade or 7th grade, it's so much harder. Ask any adult who's going back later to learn how to read how much more difficult it is at that stage. So we're really focused on literacy overall. And then there's a lot of data, a lot of studies that show that literally specifically school libraries and school librarians are a huge part of that impact. So we wanted to put it back. I know that I've been in schools, I visited schools where the library wasn't even there anymore. It was an empty room or was filled with stuff. It's not being used as a library. And I think that's a tragedy. So there's other pieces we can talk about too. Do you have specific questions?
No, absolutely. There's so much running through my mind with this because first and foremost, this is one of those things that you don't even realize until you think about it. And I thought back and I was like, wow, I do remember being in some schools where there were no official actual library. And you would think that's where a library should be, in a school.
And I know that, there's a lot more shift to online content, right?
Correct.
That doesn't mean you don't still need librarians and the opportunity to focus on literacy, on being able to read. And the other piece, so librarians themselves are a huge part of it because they bring expertise, right? They bring the skills that are needed. They also bring new technology, right? Librarians are technologists anymore, right? They bring that new technology. One of the things that started this discussion here in the Michigan Senate about needing to do this is one of my constituents. I live in West Bloomfield, by the way. I love that basketball team that was on right before me. Anyway, back to the reading. The thing with librarians are, we found there's a huge need. There's a constituent in our district who wrote a couple of books about online literacy, about understanding, using social media, how to do that effectively, and how to tell when something you're reading is a story or a real thing. Is it truth or fiction? How do you know? How do you find the sources of things? How do you get down to the bottom of it to say, okay, it was entertaining, but I know that it's really just a story. And so we're building curriculum. So this is all in budget. So none of this is approved yet, right? We're in the process of putting all the pieces together and we're trying to put it in the budget for next year. Curriculum development to help those librarians specifically focus on that. It will also give teachers the opportunity to use, there'll be a class, teachers have to do continuing education credits every year. So there'll be a class that they can choose to use that shows them, because online content is in every kind of class anymore. It's your papers you're writing, research you're doing. So all teachers should understand how to make sure to include that in their content. So the students understand when they're working online, if you're writing a report, you better make sure that's a factual thing as opposed to somebody's made up story. It's not going to get you a very good grade on your report, right? So all those pieces together gives them all the opportunity to keep up with that technology and make sure that we're making the best use of those online resources. It's a huge piece of it. We got to have all of those things.
No, absolutely. And joining us, we have Michigan Senator Rosemary Bayer representing West Bloomfield, talking about this library in every school legislation that she helped introduce as of recently. And this is addressing, like you said, the declining literacy rates, significant decrease in the number of school librarians employed statewide. There was a decrease in the number of school librarians, 73% between 2000 and 2016, according to sources. Now, with this legislation, I understand in every school, that's the thing, in every school. So with that being said, we're talking about different school districts, different size schools and students. And will this legislation account for the different size schools and different fundings? And I know you spoke about the funding a little bit, but can you get into that, how, the different size libraries and the different schools may fluctuate?
Yeah, and there's, kind of laid out in the legislation a little map of sizes, right? So when you're really, really small, the requirement to have a library diminishes, right? As you get smaller and smaller. If you only have 100 kids in your school, maybe you're going to share a library with a neighboring school or the next nearest school. So there's different ways to look at it. We're trying to be reasonable. And oftentimes, so those bills just got introduced recently. There's always the opportunity for adjustments as the bills go through the process here in the legislature. They've just been introduced. They've not had a committee hearing yet, so we have to go, and that opens up the opportunity for corrections, fixes, improvements, all that kind of stuff that goes all the time when we do new legislation. And this is kind of a big deal. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're talking about doing this, that we're taking this very seriously, and we're willing to put resources to it. So here's your chance to speak out loud. We know that the librarians are really excited about this. That it's a big deal for us statewide. I think it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, see, the thing is, a lot of people, like we discussed before, we're in a digital age, and kids nowadays are just phone, tablets, computers for the most part. I wouldn't even say desktop as much. It's really electronics that are more mobile, what these kids are on. So it's the focus. You spoke on a little bit more of the technology side too. Can you give a little bit more insight into the technology investments with this legislation also? Will there be iPads, computers, and things of that nature?
So that's not in this part of the budget, but there are other places where that kind of equipment is opportunities for funding. And the main thing that we continue to try to do, this current school year, we raised up the foundational allowance, right? The spending allowance for per student that goes into every school district. We raised that up last year. There's another raise up in the current draft budget, right? We keep focusing on anything we can do, and we're getting pretty close to 10,000 per student, which is a pretty big number. It's increased a lot in the last 5 years. So we're proud of that. We know we still have a long way to go. And the nice thing about that allowance, basically, it goes into the district, and local districts, some have a lot of technology, some do not, and they may need to, they get to use their own methods and adjustments to how they spend that money, right? They have to pay teachers, that's a given. How many teachers? What subjects do we add? All those things are local decisions. So that gives them a lot of flexibility. Do we need more technology or not? It's a big focus for all of us because we know that's how we live now. We need to make sure that every kid everywhere, this is another equity piece of the conversation, right? If you don't have access all the time, you're losing out. Somebody else is online all the time keeping up, and you don't have that opportunity. That's not fair. So it's really important to make sure we do that.
No, I grew up, my mother used to take me to the library growing up. We would go there, find different books on different subjects. We would utilize the computer because we didn't have access to one at home at the time. And then I also worked at a library when I went to college. So I spent about 4 years there. I used to take books home that they were going to discard. So I appreciate the art and the science of the library and the librarian. Getting into the librarian specifically, why is it so important to have a state certified librarian? Why not just a regular staff member or volunteer parent to come and oversee the library?
Well, you do actually want someone who has the skills, right? So we could have, and I would imagine many school districts do have volunteers come in and help, but not lead the instruction, not lead the skill development, not lead the things that actually are what are the professional skills that those librarians bring. Now, one of the things that we are doing, and Wayne State is a big piece of the work here, but to create a kind of an accelerated certification program so that teachers who want to become librarians could do that quicker. Right, get another opportunity to build up our stock of certified librarians through that kind of program. So we'll continue to support those at universities wherever we can, as the teachers do their ongoing course credits. That's that's a really good choice for them to be able to do that. So it's exciting work, especially now. It's just going to get better and better.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the insight and information so far. Michigan Senator Rosemary Bayer joining us. Any last words, any additional information, important information that the residents should know, anything that we can do to help out in the time being?
So kind of back to your story, right? When you were a kid,
Yes.
having a librarian in our family made a big difference, right? I'm one of 6 kids. We would all pile in the station wagon. I'm a lot older than you, right? So we didn't have computers and phones and all that. We would all pile in the car. We would go to the Romeo Library and check out as many books. And they actually got to know us. They would let us take extra books. But everybody read all the books. So even though my older brother was, 8 years older than my younger sister, he read all the books. I mean, everybody read everybody else's books. And because there isn't really no other success factor more important than reading. Doesn't matter what you're reading. Read the box. My brother would read the cereal box.
Yeah.
Out loud.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
read it. Just read it. Just see what's on the box. So that's my advice always.
Yeah.
Read to your kids. Let them read back to you. See how many times you have to read that book before they can read it to you. Get it out there.
That is great advice and a great word. It all starts at home. If you can at least bring that influence at home, your children, even if there is a library at the school, they will at least draw interest to that. Because if it's not necessarily an interest that the kid has in general and the parents aren't influencing that, then a library in school may not even do any good at all.
Absolutely true. I mean, if you're sitting there reading the cereal box out loud, guess what they're going to do the next day? They're going to read the cereal box, right? I mean, that's what happens. Kids want to be like us. We know that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Michigan Senator Rosemary Bayer, joining us on the Splash Live, talking about the library in every school bill. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a delight.
Excuse me. Such a great pleasure to speak with Michigan Senator Rosemary Bayer from West Bloomfield, speaking on the library in every school bill. Like I said before, I'm a complete advocate for these libraries, for librarians. I think it's very important. And it's a shock that we haven't noticed that there aren't libraries in every school already, Tyler.
Yeah, it is, and it's a potentially important resource that could only get stronger in our schools if that is mandated, and we have those professionals that do end up getting into those classrooms, vital resources potentially coming to our schools across Michigan. And Kevin, vital resources being provided and addressed right here in our community, particularly for those that are facing food insecurity.
Yes. See, and this is another thing that I'm happy to be a part of to actually help within the community. West Bloomfield Township specifically and West Bloomfield Police Department collaborated with Hospitality House for a client choice food pantry event. Definitely had the opportunity to explore this a little bit more, but to give us a little bit more detail, Susan Ersparmer, who's the executive director for Hospitality House Food Pantry. Can you tell us about Hospitality House and how it helps address food insecurity in our local area?
So in the United States, food insecurity is growing. So last year it grew by 30%. Here at Hospitality House, our numbers increased by 100%. So Hospitality House is a client choice pantry. And by that, I mean, when people come here, we don't hand them a box of food. They get a grocery cart and they're allowed to shop our shelves, kind of like a mini grocery store. So people are treated with dignity and respect, and it cuts down on food waste at the same time. Besides our client choice pantry, we have also partnered with many schools. In the state of Michigan, kids get free breakfast and free lunch, but we know they're going home hungry on the weekend. So every week we are packing 300 drawstring bags and delivering them to 12 schools in the area. They have 6 meals and 4 snacks in them. So those are the 2 main things Hospitality House is doing in the community here.
That is interesting. You know, I never even put it together until you just explained it. That's why I'm glad you did. Client choice food pantry. They have the choice to go in there and grab what they need. That is a great gesture, first and foremost. I don't know too much about that, but now we're getting into the actual client choice pantry. Now, this is essentially, like you said, you're partnering with Vibe Credit Union, West Bloomfield Police Department, West Bloomfield Township, and you're going to have donation boxes at different locations. Could you explain this process a little bit more?
Yeah, Vibe is a wonderful partner of Hospitality House. They also send volunteers regularly to the pantry. We're very volunteer driven. So Vibe initiated this with the West Bloomfield Police and the township. And from April 15th to April 26th, they're going to have boxes available at the West Bloomfield Vibe location and also at the Civic Center, the township area as well. So it'll start on the 15th and run through the 26th. They're going to be doing a kickoff here on April 6th and send some more volunteers to us from different areas. So we're very lucky to have community partners. That's how Hospitality House is able to do what we do. When we talk about the client choice, so we buy food and we get food free from Hospitality House. But when people do food drives like this for us, it allows us to have the variety on the shelf so people can truly come in and be able to select something and they're not just choosing from one option.
No, absolutely. No, and that's a great thing because that's usually kind of a stigma with food pantries also, that they only get the lower brand or whatever the case may be, or it may only be one brand. With this type of volunteer opportunity or people donating, you definitely do get a wide variety. So it's not just catering to one type of brand or one type of person's interest or whatever the case may be. Speaking on the volunteer portion of it, just real quick, we do have Hospitality House Executive Director Susan Ersbommer joining us, talking about their collaboration on West Bloomfield Township and West Bloomfield Police Department's Client Choice Food Pantry event. Can you talk about the opportunities that you have for the volunteers? You said April 6th is when you're actually looking for volunteers to come together and help for this specifically, correct? Can you talk a little bit more about it, the requirements or qualifications?
Yeah, well, April 6th, actually, those entities will be sending volunteers to us, but we are open for client shopping on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and we need volunteers on all of those days. So the volunteers partner with people to shop for pantry. They help hold the bags open, tell them, what's available on the shelves. We also, like a grocery store, like on Mondays, we have 110 people that come through the pantry. So we need volunteers to go to our warehouse and continuously stock our shelves as well. Some days when we have food drives like this, we need volunteers to help sort food. We have long-term volunteers that are at our front desk and do various things like that as well.
And what about the qualifications or requirements for anyone who wants to be on the receiving end of these donations? Are there any requirements or any steps that someone should go to be a recipient?
Yeah, we ask that people are 200% of the poverty rate. They come here, they fill out a brief application, and we sign them up for services. We do not ask for verification. We believe if people are coming here and telling us they're hungry and need food, that they're hungry and need food, so they will get food from us.
Oh, the honor system. I like that. I like that. That makes for an even better.
Yeah, it takes courage for people to come here.
No, and that's a great point too, because and that's why we do things like this here on Civic Center TV, because we want to get the word out. If anyone is in need, or if you know someone who is in need, or if you even want to volunteer, you have some extra things in your home and you want to get rid of them, or you just want to donate them because you know someone else could benefit better from them. This is an organization that you can go to if you want to volunteer or if you want to donate. Can you just talk about any other events or any other opportunities for volunteers that you have with Hospitality House?
Sure. Well, like I said, we have always weekly opportunities for volunteering. Another event we have coming up this summer is our golf outing, and that'll be July 29th at Edgewood Country Club. So we'll be posting information on our website about that soon, and look for golfers to come out. It's usually a lot of fun.
Nice. Now, I may come out there if you allow hockey sticks. I'll get my Happy Gilmore going out there. I'm not experienced with golf at all. But
Come on out there. It's best ball, so, you can't go wrong.
No, definitely. Susan Ersbommer, Executive Director with Hospitality House, partnering with West Bloomfield Township and West Bloomfield Police Department, joining us. Thank you again for your time, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I appreciate it.
Want to thank Susan Ersbommer from Hospitality House Food Pantry again for joining us and talk about her efforts in helping the community. You can find out more at hhfp.org. That's hospitalityhousefoodpantry.org, Tyler.
Yeah, wbtownship.org, also a good resource to find even more information on how you can help yourself and others in the community address food insecurity, including right here in West Bloomfield Township, Kevin.
Yes, and continually celebrating what we're doing great in the greater West Bloomfield area, we want to recognize West Bloomfield High School's band. They recently received a superior rating for their performance recently. And here to talk about it is West Bloomfield High School Director of Bands, Jesse Sachs. Thank you so much for joining us, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor and privilege to talk about the great successes of the students within the band program. So back in the second, I believe it was March 8th, we went to Band and Orchestra Festival, Walled Lake Northern High School, and several schools host throughout the state. But the way Band and Orchestra Festival works is there's lots of preparation leading up to this event. Each school performs 3 pieces for 3 different adjudicators. One of the pieces has to be a march. The second piece is from a required list, and then the third piece is at the discretion of the ensemble. And we perform for 3 different adjudicators. There's 5 categories on the rubric, and in the concert portion, which is the 3 pieces that we prepared, we earned a superior rating. So we can earn a rating between 1 and 5, and we earned a Division I rating. And then after that performance, we went into the sight reading room, and we're given a piece. We have 5 minutes to look it over, talk about rhythms. We're not allowed to play. We can clap, sing. But then after the 5-minute time is up, we performed. So we earned a Division I rating on that as well. So it was a really good day for our wind ensemble.
That is very impressive, Jesse. Without me even knowing those details, as you shared, you had 5 minutes to really pretty much learn a new piece and put it together without any practice. That is amazing. So I want to start off by saying congratulations on the Wind Ensemble's Division I rating at the MSBOA District 4 Band and Orchestra Festival. I want to officially say that to you. Great work that you are doing. What do you believe attribute to the success of the students receiving a superior rating?
Sure. So with any successful program, it certainly takes a village. I think, it obviously starts with the students, their hard work, their diligence, their buy-in. I think the students, within about 4 or 5 weeks, we had about 8 weeks to prepare, but by the fifth week, the students were starting to get a little bit sick of the music. It was very tedious, but they just came in with a positive attitude every day, and knew that we were working toward this particular goal. And I think, it starts with their attitude, the culture, the cohesion within the classroom. So I think that was a main component. The other being the parent support. That's huge. None of it could happen without the support and the advocacy from the administration, both the building administration, Mr. Pace, as well as the central office administration. So I think the collaboration from all of those different angles really helped us succeed.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you mentioned it takes a village. It's more than just you. It's a team. It's the parents. It's the staff. When we're dealing with children in the greater West Bloomfield area, we want to make sure everyone is involved in their development. Jesse, I know we're kind of pressed for time, and I want to thank you again. Do you want to share any goals, aspirations for your band program, or just tell the community anything else that you all have going on?
Yeah. So most recently, we had a bunch of students go to Solo and Ensemble Festival where they performed different solos and small group pieces. We had several students make it to state and then earn top ratings at state as well. So I'm really fortunate to work with such committed students. Upcoming, we have our spring concert on May 9th at the West Bloomfield High School. On Memorial Day in Keego Harbor. We have a couple more performances coming up at like nursing homes and other small venues. And I just want to say, to the community, how fortunate I am to work in West Bloomfield schools. As I mentioned before, I have great support from the students, families, community members, administration. And, I know a lot of my colleagues at other schools cannot say the same. I really have the full package, which is not that common nowadays. So to have, the type of support and involvement and investment from pretty much everyone is something that I can't take for granted. So, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Goes without saying. And we're happy to be a part of that. Thank you again, Jesse Sachs, Director of Band for West Bloomfield High School, joining us to talk about their recent achievements. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So happy to be a channel in the media to get out that great information, Tyler, here on The Splash and what Jesse Sachs has going on.
Yeah, great to hear from the West Bloomfield Band program. They do amazing work over there. And, we've heard recently also from the choir and of course, from all these sports teams that do so much and accomplish so much in so many various areas of their craft and of what they work hard on. And that goes not only for the coaches and for the directors and for the students themselves, but also the entire community's involvement. So great to hear from Jesse on that. Plenty more to talk about this week all across the greater West Bloomfield area. We'll have the latest updates, news and information, and interesting stories from across our 4 communities. For our entire team at Civic Center TV, Kevin McIntosh, Calvin Brown, Jake Schaff, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thank you for watching The Splash Live.